Hey, what's up? It's Decca. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will be reviewing the new Selena Gomez My Mind and Me documentary. I might have watched it about 3 times. And it's good, okay? So hopefully by now you've watched it and we can just talk about what we think about it. I'm gonna tell you what I think about it. Let me know your thoughts on this because I feel like there is so much to unpack in this documentary. If you like her, stick around because there's so much to unpack. If you don't like her, also stick around because I want you to think about why don't you like her. This movie made me think so much about my childhood and how influenced I was by Selena Gomez. And unfortunately, I have to mention Justin Bieber. Their stardom was so massive, so global. It was kind of in that last era of the tabloids having so much dominance over the media. And as a young child, I saw it everywhere. I mean, I was literally watching her on Barney when I was really young. Selena's actually 2 years older than me, and I feel like the media was always talking about her and Justin Bieber. And every time that they would, break up, it was whose side are you on? Justin or Selena? Are you team Selena or team Justin? And this has been done before. Before Justin and Selena, it was Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears. But the Selena and Justin narratives were huge, gave them global clout, and surely made a lot of adults around them a lot of money, which we all are coming to realize how toxic being a child star is, especially being super, super famous. And, Selena went from Barney to Disney to pop star. And there's really something to be said about the Disney to music artist pipeline, but we'll get into that, okay? Whether you liked Selena Gomez or Justin's, music or not, you couldn't get away from these narratives. And we were made as children to feel like we had to choose a side. And then I realized when this documentary came out that I was interested in it, but I also had this kind of residual dislike for her. And then I've come to realize there's not that dislike for her is not based on my own thoughts and opinions. It's just what the narratives were growing up. We were made to feel like we shouldn't like one of them, whether it was Selena or Justin. And then when Justin moved on, it turned into a war. I'm really glad to see Selena being humanized through this film. I think it's long overdue and really wonderful, really well done. The documentary is all over the place. It's not in chronological order. It's confusing, okay? I'm just gonna say it. I thought it was confusing. I watched it, like I said, almost 3 times, and I still feel a little confused about the timeline, but I feel like that was kind of intentional. Also, I know that they started filming the movie in 2016, and then they stopped, and then they started again in 2018, 2019, 2020. It feels like it's all over the place. But it does feel very personal and vulnerable, and I do like that, it's kind of artsy. So we see in 2016 that she's getting ready for this tour, and she goes out and she does the rehearsal, and then after the rehearsal, she's critiquing herself, and it's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen somebody so famous and sought after be so mean to themselves. And surely this is probably a more common thing than we realize, because what celebrities are ever showing you that dark reality? And she's so young, and she's in this full breakdown talking about this negative voice in her head, telling her that she sucks and that her show sucks. And then her boss walks in and is like, no, it's fine, we love it. And she's like, I'm sorry that you even signed me. It is so heartbreaking to see, and it's just very clear that she's not okay. It's just sad to see that her mental health was so bad, and yet the show must go on. The tour went on, she did 55 shows, and it ultimately was canceled. And then everybody acted like surprised, but it's like, did you guys not just see her? She's not okay. Okay, and then there's this angle that, she's being compared to Justin Bieber, as I was talking about. So they show her comparing herself to Justin Bieber, saying things like, if I was a guy, I could just put a beanie on and nobody would care. And then the boss comes in and she mentions that the boss had wanted her to do a song with Justin. And she's like, when will I be enough on my own without him? It's like they acted like her career depended on whether or not she was with Justin Bieber. And that just self-esteem done. Like, how do you function in that kind of environment as a young woman who's still getting to know herself, still developing her own identity, and really, like, I get the impression that her and Justin Bieber were together. They were young and they were off and on, which is a roller coaster in its own, right? And then your money and the money of the people around you is dependent on this relationship and this press. And you're going from Disney to going to music. And I don't think the people around her really cared about her, because if they did, they would have let her pause and develop herself and her mental health before going out and doing something completely exhausting. Disney star to musician situation. Acting and singing are not the same thing. Acting on a set, you are in a trailer and you're on set, you're acting, you're back in the trailer, you're on set, you're acting, you go home, go to sleep, come back, do it again until the movie or the TV, show is over. Music is different. You have to pull from you're pulling from the depths of your soul in acting as well, but with music, you're like creating music in a studio and then singing it for people and doing meet and greets. They show her doing a 2 to 3 hour meet and greet where she is super duper on for like 3 hours before she goes and does the show, which is why I think it's like a completely exhausting, grueling job to be a musician and to be on tour, obviously. And to be so young and to not know yourself and to have this overwhelming pressure, as she says in the documentary, like, you need to be taking extra care of your mental health. And it just seems like she had no control over her mental health, no real care for her mental health. I don't think the people around her were that great at caring for her as a person, because the way that they acted shocked when she had a mental break and, was in a mental hospital, it's like, how could you not have seen this coming? Another part that really stuck out to me, and it comes from kind of the beginning, is when she says, "Why have I become so far from the light?" And when I watched it back a second time, I found it very interesting that she said, "Why have I become so far from the light?" and not, "How have I become so far from the light?" Because to me, that indicates a lot of things. Like, she knows the how. How did I become so far from the light? Well, because I am a child star who has been working like an adult my whole life. Even though I've been a child all this time, I've been working very hard, giving everything I have on a soul level to everyone else but myself. And the why to me indicates, what is the point? What is the purpose? What is my purpose? Who am I? And why am I even doing this? Why have I done this? Just for money, for fame, for clout? Like, that's depressing as hell. We don't even have to get into the amount of child stars who have grown up to completely fall apart or worse. And I think that's why she's, is being very vulnerable about her unalive tendencies and being grateful for being alive, because it seems like all the work that she's done led her to a very dark place. Very dark place. In the movie, this is where I'm kind of confused, like, what is the timeline here? She goes to Africa and it seems like she has this like huge epiphany of like, whoa, this is what life is about. not any of that Hollywood stuff. Like, I'm here in Africa and there is none of the Hollywood glitz and glamour, and yet people are so happy and so confident and so pure. And it seems like she's having this like wake up of like, what is my purpose? Who am I? And why am I doing all this other stuff that I'm doing? Is it so that I can do this? Oh, but I can't. I have to go back and do press and do tour and all these other things. And like, it clearly doesn't feel good after she's experienced the wonderfulness of Africa. I find it very, very interesting. Those scenes, y'all, those scenes where she is singing with the people in Africa, you could just see that she literally did not want to leave. Like, I think the lyrics of the songs that they're singing is like talking about staying there. And to have to leave and then go answer like meaningless press questions, again, very depressing for literally anybody. And I just love how much this documentary humanizes her. And yet it's just so sad because it's another curtain being pulled back on this illusion that we grew up with, that like, look at this super happy pop star. And yeah, she was with Justin Bieber and they were mostly happy until they weren't. Don't worry about her. On to the next. Like, what? Like, what a weird society. So she has all of this stuff going on, trying to define herself, trying to be her own pop star without Justin Bieber, and also having lupus. They don't get too into her having lupus, but they do show her getting her, blood pressure taken by her like friend or assistant who doesn't really even know what they're doing. It's not like there's a nurse or a doctor present. It's just like she's dealing with this and she knows that if her lupus flares up that she could die. So on top of the pressure of being a, post Disney star, ex Justin Bieber situation, like going on a world tour, she's also dealing with life and death health issues. And it just seems like this would be way too much pressure for literally anyone ever. And like, why is this even a thing? Like, why did she have to go through all of that? It just breaks my heart that like she was thrust into the spotlight and scrutinized for years. A lot having to do with that Justin Bieber relationship. It just seems like it was very dehumanizing. Like, I wish that something like this documentary would have come out a long time ago and humanized her and told her side of the story. But I can understand if she didn't want to be in the spotlight. I feel like there was a time where she kind of took some time away, and then Justin Bieber like moving on with Hailey Bieber and them getting married and all of that and having to deal with that every time she was out in public and getting questioned by the paparazzi. Like, it just seems like a nightmare, honestly. Like, what dream? Because it's giving nightmare. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I would love to know what you thought about the documentary. I really feel like between this and like the Call Her Daddy podcast situation with Hailey Bieber, like we're getting a lot of kind of closure on all of this Justin, Selena, Hailey situation. And I really hope that like we can never talk about it again and they never have to deal with it again. I really think we would all like to move on. Maybe we should all go watch Murders in the Building and like collectively move on from the personal relationship narratives because it just seems like they really have had a detrimental impact on everybody's mental health, like everybody involved. All three of them have seemed to have publicly gone through it at some point or another. And there's got to be better ways, Thank you so much for watching. I actually have my own short film that I have created. I actually have two that I plan on sharing soon, so be on the lookout for that. And I will also be reviewing The Watcher and White Lotus soon. So I hope that you're watching those and we can talk about those as well. Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Peace.